Poddin My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Poddin My Noggin. I'm your host, CK Sims, and this week I am very excited to have our guest here, author Brad Elder of the new book, Recoil of Justice. As a podcast host, I have had the privilege of reading and interviewing many authors, but rarely do I get authors who are in my favorite genre.
Nice.
So this was a particularly exciting thing for me to receive. But just so the audience knows, so Brad and I connected many, many months ago, actually. And so I knew of the book, but there were still revisions and things that had to be due, all of the things that you need when you're releasing a good book. And then finally, just maybe, I don't even think it was 2 full weeks ago, I received it in the mail, and it was like the perfect timing because I had nothing slated for the weekend and I could just throw myself into it. So anyway.
Aren't those the best? Aren't those the best weekends?
They are the best weekends. So welcome to the show, Brad. I am delighted to have you here. Talk about your book and what got you here. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, CK. I really appreciate it very much. I'm excited to be here and excited to talk to you about my book, Recoil of Justice. I've done a number of podcasts, but only a few where the host has actually read the book. So I'm really excited about this one.
Okay, so I feel privileged then, extra, and I'm kind of having a fan moment, oh my
goodness.
Just to be, so this is the type of book that I would have purchased on my own, right? Like if I had seen it in the bookstore or on Amazon, I would have seen the cover. I would have seen that little Ryan Wolf thriller down at the bottom. I'm like, this seems like it might be right up my alley. Okay. And then I would have brought it home and I would have read the book and I would have had the exact same reaction that I had. And then I would have tried to seek you out to get you on the show. But so before I fan out and all of those things so people at home, just before we start, and you can tell how excited I am. I'm usually very composed. Recoil of Justice by Brad Elder is available for purchase now, correct?
It is absolutely on anywhere they buy books online. Amazon,
Amazing.
Barnes & Noble, pretty much anywhere they buy books online.
If you want a really good read, I would highly suggest this book. The story is amazing. I'm going to talk about it too much right now. I want to kind of talk about Brad as the human behind the book, and then we're going to get to the book a little later, but definitely. So Brad, tell me, you're a lawyer by trade, no?
That is correct. Yes.
So did you always want to write a book?
Okay, that's a really good question. No, I didn't. It was not on my bucket list to do. I don't have a creative writing degree. I wasn't particularly an avid reader certainly not in high school. I was the Cliff Notes kind of guy in high school. I got to college and I avoided literature classes like the plague. They just didn't do anything for me. I went to law school a little later in life. I was in my early 30s when I started, and you don't have a choice there. There's no Cliff Notes for the case law in law school. So you had to read. I mean, I didn't have a choice, and I found myself, not all the cases, found myself truly enjoying learning through reading while in law school. So after I got out and got my license, I needed an escape from the everyday hellhole that practicing law can be, or stress hole. That's probably the stressful lifestyle practicing law can be. And I needed an escape. And so I found the John Grisham novels. I thought, well, I'm a lawyer. He's a lawyer. Let's start reading that. And I found it to be an incredible escape. And since then, I've moved on, to other authors that I love. Then it moved to Harlan Coben, and then it moved into Brad Thor and Jack Carr. And oddly enough, I'm just now experiencing Vince Flynn, he's kind of the inspiration for a lot of these great thriller novel writers. He's the inspiration, but I'm just now finding him. And I'm just now discovering S.A. Cosby as well. Fantastic writer. So there's a lot of Baldacci, there's a lot of great writers out there that I've discovered, but it was not on my bucket list. I was reading Red Sky Morning by Jack Carr. It's been less than 2 years ago, probably now. And something occurred to me that I think I may be able to do this. And so when I finished Red Sky Morning, I put it down and got out my computer and started writing. I didn't have a plot in mind. I had a basic theme in mind that I wanted to write. And I just started writing. And again, I had no clue what I was doing. I had no clue if I could even do this. So I wrote about the first 4 chapters and gave it to my wife. Needed to give it to someone. And she read the first few and said, "This is really good." Now you go, well, she's my wife. Of course she's going to say that. And so I finally got up the nerve to send it to one of my close friends who is a writing professor at a university in South Carolina. And it came back very complimentary, to the point he said, "If you don't pursue this, you're crazy." And so that gave me the confidence to go forward with the process. And then I really started to buckle down. That whole process was probably, by the time I got up the nerve to send to him, I would say it was 4 to 5 months. And then that gave me the real confidence to go forward. And then I started in earnest, and probably took me about 9 months from there to finish the novel completely.
That's fascinating, right? Because I think just from a transformation perspective, like, now you're a published author.
Mm-hmm.
Who didn't really care for reading in high school and college. Like you said, you had no. When you do law, and especially when you first enter into law, like, there's a lot of reading. I don't think people understand how much
Tremendous
reading
amount.
is required just to take on a little case. Plus your year of articling, I think it is. The amount of what kind of law did you do?
Well, in the beginning, I did. Whoever walked into my office and said, "Do you do this kind of law?" Especially
Fair.
if rent was due soon, I'm like, you know what? As a matter of fact, I do. So mostly that was mostly divorces, some criminal defense, things like that. And then I kind of got out of my own practice and started into the title insurance industry, where I opened a title company. And so my focus from my law from there was real estate law. So, and backing up a little bit, before I started writing, I was actually, I never considered myself a very creative person from an artistic standpoint. I've created companies and I've created infrastructure and things like that. But from an artistic standpoint, I never considered myself very creative. We were involved in a lawsuit. I wasn't the lawyer on it. I was the defendant, actually. And it was maybe one of the most stressful, painful times of my life. Hired a group of folks, and actually it touches on it a little bit in the beginning of the book, just barely. Hired a group of folks and from a competitor, and they didn't take it very kindly, and they sued us. And it took 3 years, cost a mountain of money in legal fees, to the point to where we weren't sure if we were even going to make it. I had gone through a divorce at that same time. Like, I got separated, was served with a lawsuit, went through a divorce, and was fighting this for, at this point, about 2.5 years. And trial was finally scheduled in September of 2019. I had 3 weeks set aside, because that's how long they estimated the trial to be. And I was so ready for it to be over with, because it was such a massive distraction and a massive stressor. No matter how it came out, at least we're going to get it behind us. 2 days before trial, I was living in California at the time. Trial was in Houston. Tragedy struck the judge's family, and trial had to be postponed. And I was so, obviously, there's nothing you could do about it. I was concerned for the judge's family. Everything turned out to be fine there, but it was concerned for the judge's family. But so frustrated that now it's going to be 6 more months. And I just needed something to do. I needed something that only I could control. I had to have something just for myself. I'm not a painter. I was never a painter. I thought I'm going to try to paint something, because something where the outcome doesn't matter. I'm the only one that can control this. No one else can touch this. So I went to the paint store and bought some canvas and some paints, and I just started painting. The first few were absolutely god awful, to the point they were in file 13 before the week was over. They were terrible, but I just kept trying, and was painting the picture, and I actually made a brush stroke, and I'm like, oh wait, that looks just like a wave. So I kept learning about my mistakes, and that kind of created this, opened up this kind of creative gene, maybe that I was able to discover. And I kept doing that. I kept, painting some just oddball paintings and things that I enjoyed. And that created a creative spark in me. And that's what led me to, when I was reading the Jack Carr novel, to go, I'm ready to create something else again. I think I'll create a book. So that
That's
kind of leads me to a traumatic experience unlock something in my life that I never foresaw coming.
that's kind of incredible though when you think about it. Like through our darkest times, when we're pushed against the wall, like that sort of thing, and we just need some sort of release, some sort of like
Mm-hmm.
something. And for you, it was initially painting. Is that one of yours behind you?
Yeah, it is actually. Let me see if I can move it's not real good. I'm a bit of a beer drinker, and I decided one day that, hey, this glass looks cool that I was drinking out of. I like the colors and I like everything. So I just thought I didn't have
Look,
5 of them at the time to go. So
fantastic. And love the gold with the blue. Um, and what's interesting, perspective is everything, right? So as you were telling me about law, when I was looking at the painting behind you, I was imagining hourglasses. That's what my brain
oh, okay.
was registering at that moment. But it's beer glasses. It's fantastic.
Yeah, beer glasses. Yeah.
And you had said something. You said earlier that you hadn't had a creative anything, if you will, or lawyers are not really
Mhm.
creative, that sort of thing. I would argue that lawyers are very creative and have to be very creative. It might be regimented and
Right.
structured, but like there has to be a creative component in a lawyer if they're going to be good at practicing the law.
Well, and you make a good point. I'd always tell people you have to create a story in a light most favorable to your client. So I didn't consider artistic, though. I guess now looking back on it, there's definitely some creative art there. Um, because there's so much pressure involved with it and you had to get it right. It wasn't like it was a blank canvas that and it didn't matter where it goes, almost like something artistic. So yes, you do have to be very creative. I never considered that artistic, though. And probably because I just didn't realize it was.
Those might be your grassroots movements of what brought you through your painting and then through your book, like to your book. I have a
Right.
question. So you started writing this, you ruminated on it, and then you finally sent it off to your friend who's an English professor in at University of Carolina, South Carolina.
He's in coastal Carolina.
Okay, and you got it back with a very complimentary and like a prod, essentially. Like you'd be crazy if you didn't write this. When you sat
Yes.
down, when you opened your computer, what was in your mind? Like, do you remember like what was formulating in your mind? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I remember at least the basic plot line. Um, I wanted, and I don't know what precipitated this, but I wanted to do something, um, where on the surface it was a common person, who went into a common job and didn't realize they were getting themselves into something very sinister, that the powers that be were, had something behind the scenes that they were having them work on, and they didn't realize that's what they were working on. So initially, Ryan gets the call from Eric Meyer's dad. You know Eric Myers from the book. He's a completely different was a completely different character originally. He was going to be a computer programmer and working on a computer program, but what he didn't realize is it was a portal for the sex slave industry or human trafficking industry, to where they, and I didn't exactly know where it was going to go, but so, and there was going to be it's going to sound awful, a voyeuristic avenue to it, to where people could sign on to a very secure website and watch these disgusting things happening to people who had been enslaved. And so I knew with that plot, I was creating a very dark antagonist, and I wanted a dark antagonist. That's what kind of grew into the Invisidata. So I had to take it a little bit different way. Something occurred to me, like, I think I want to make this different, more of a case, not so much Ryan's kind of a private investigator, which would have been similar to what he would had to do with that first plot line. And then I started writing, and it just took off from there. And I had another idea, and I jotted down some notes, and almost none of that original material is even in the book. Now, the first chapter, which was the prologue at the time, is almost verbatim the opening of part 3, to where he was in Mexico and sipping on the whiskey. That was originally the prologue and the beginning of the book. After I sent it to my editor, he's like, okay, you're divulging a real big secret here about the case from the beginning. Are you sure you want to do that? And again, that's where I go back to, I'm still not sure what I'm doing here. I'm kind of, feeling my way through this, and just that editorial process. And we can get to that later, but it taught me how to be so much better of a writer, a much, much better writer, and how I construct the book and go through it and think through the storyline. But that was my thought. I think I have it. And I remember reading a book, and I don't remember which book it was. One of the bad guys, or an ancillary bad guy, had a QR code tattooed onto his arm, that if you scan the QR code, that opens up a secure portal, and they were able to message each other through that. So the original name of the book was The Tattoo. I was going to have him have a tattoo, and then they find out that others have the same thing. And so that plot line didn't play out real well. And I kind of felt like maybe I was copying a little too much from that story. So I went a different direction with it. And the protagonist's name is changed. It was originally Brad Wayne, which is my first name, part of my, and my middle name. My wife was like, I don't think you want to do that, so she goes, just go, then I changed I was going to have a pseudonym. Brad Wayne was going to be the author. And she's like, use your own name. It's a good name. So, you bounce these things off, but yeah, it was a huge work in process. And I just kept feeling my way through it until I looked up and I had a finished manuscript.
A really amazing book. I just realized that I need to flip or something, because it's reading the opposite way. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Partner today with CK Sims and Poddin My Noggin to get in front of an audience that cares. You will be supporting mental health stories, tales of resilience, and uplifting content, aligning your brand with bringing goodness, authenticity, and kindness front and center. This spot could be yours. Do you have a story of struggle and resilience? One that you want to share with others and possibly help someone through their own struggles? Find the link in the show description and fill out the guest form today.
Welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we were talking to, or still are talking to, Mr. Brad Elder, author of the book Justice It's upside down. That's probably why I couldn't read it. Recoil of Justice. And I'm no good at this placement thing
It,
because every time I try to
it's
show it, I'm
odd.
off screen.
I was
Um,
fixing my hair earlier in the camera, and I was going the opposite way with the way I was trying to fix it. So it's a different mindset when you're looking into a camera.
Absolutely. So, Recoil of Justice, we talked to Brad about how he got here, which is quite an interesting story, transformation, all of that sort of thing, and then how the book sort of started from some ideas and grew over time. So, I have to tell you, Brad, I literally cannot wait. And I know we're just talking about this book right now, but I cannot wait for dum 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 Core of Truth. When is this coming out?
My goal is by the end of the year. I'm about
That's
halfway through it right now. I think I'm at
something to look
46,000
forward
words or
to for
so.
sure.
Yeah, I am, and I'm real excited about that. I've taken about the last 6 weeks or so off from writing, simply trying to market Recoil because it published in mid June, and I've been spending a tremendous amount of my efforts marketing. Again, I'm learning that process as well. And just this week, I got back in and I added about 2,000 words yesterday. And I was in a little bit of a standstill because I couldn't quite decide which direction. I was having not writer's block, but I was having trouble with about three different directions. And then something popped yesterday, and I was able to get a couple of thousand words in. And after this podcast, I'm hoping to get at least another thousand in, and then next week I'm completely wide open and hoping to get back in full force. So I'm really excited about Core of Truth, and not to have too many spoiler alerts, but I just wanted folks to know that it's not over yet.
Well, that's the part that got me really excited, right? Because I only discovered that just as I finished the book and was reading through your acknowledgments and that sort of thing. And then I'm like, what? There's another book coming? Okay, so the book. I really love, there's so many elements of this book that I truly loved. So, one, I liked how you shaped Ryan's character. Like, there was something about Ryan's character that felt extraordinarily believable and not over the top. Sometimes you read books and you're like, okay, this guy, right? You know, the protagonist in any book, you might be looking at it, reading it, and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm like, oh, it's just really interesting that this guy can kill, 50 men with a
Right.
broken arm and
Yeah.
like that sort of thing. What I liked about Ryan was he's skilled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but his skill didn't come from a lifetime of black
Kicking
ops.
ass.
Yes, exactly. Yes, right. So um, I really loved his character. I loved his arc. Um, the human trafficking piece was surprising to me. I was like, oh shit, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then, like, so what I love when you were talking about earlier about the original days with the QR code and the portal where people could log on and actually watch some of the horrible things. Components may still exist. I have to be careful. See, you have to tell me
Yeah.
if I say anything that's a spoiler, you need to tell me
No,
like,
you're fine so far. I think
okay,
this
good.
is
So
totally fine.
components of that original story still exist in some ways, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I think the start of the book was a completely, what's the word I'm looking for? I spent a few chapters, if not more, trying to grasp why that started the book. I mean, you know that
Hmm.
they're going to be related somehow.
Hmm.
So I read the start of the book and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then I continued and then I'm like, okay, completely change. Like we're shifting the change here. I'm like,
Hmm.
where does that start come in? And then when it does come in, it comes in quite explosively when you realize, oh,
Yeah.
um, there, it's one of those things. when you finish, it's gone from my brain because I have a brain like a goldfish. Core of Truth, and I'm going to invite you back. I
Well,
want
I
to
hope so.
unpack this more, but because I'm always so afraid of ruining spoilers. But so what I loved about the book the most was Ryan's character development, the camaraderie that was created with the individuals in his immediate circle.
Right.
I loved the technological sort of component of that. Like it was very smart. It was very advanced. And y'all, I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you anything, but like I will tell you, the ending will have you like jaw dropped. I didn't see that. I did not see the ending.
Well,
I
good.
knew that there was going to be resolution, right?
Yeah.
I did not see the very end. Did not see it, and I so it took me. I'll tell you, I'm a speed reader, so it took me 5 hours to read this book from start to finish.
Whoa. Very good.
When I lean in, I lean in. I consume it like I don't know, like I'm eating cake. I guess like if it's good, like that's and I love cakes. There's a lot of great characters in this book, and there's one also the way you set up scenes. Like I have so
Mhm.
many questions, but I'm not sure if I ask them, am I giving things away? Like, okay, I'm gonna ask this one. What was your inspiration? And the name is gone from my brain at this moment, but
That's
from
okay. There's a lot of
the
characters.
there are, but they're wonderfully written. So, what was the inspiration behind the gosh, Colombian? Was it Colombian?
Peruvian,
Venezuelan?
a Peruvian, praying
Peruvian, yeah.
Kandori.
The guy, the rich prince type guy. What was
Yes.
the inspiration behind him?
So I wanted someone, and I'm going to try to choose my words wisely here again, spoiler alert. We knew it's obvious in order to traffic someone, there has to be and this is going to sound like an awful term, an end user, right?
Yeah,
Anytime you're trying to sell anything, there has to be a buyer. I
absolutely.
knew I needed a buyer. Well, the buyer is just as depraved as the people who are the sellers, right? They're they know what they're getting themselves into, and I I wanted it to be along the same lines that these are very sophisticated people. The Justin Alcordas of the world are extremely sophisticated, extremely intelligent, extremely depraved. I didn't foresee a man like that doing business with someone who was a pervert who hid in the weeds and waited for schoolgirls to walk by. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The well, they're all low level, but and I'm having a hard time saying exactly what I want to say because I don't want to spoil anything. But I wanted him to be this spoiled brat billionaire who there's just absolutely no repercussions for his actions, none. He's obviously handsome. He's obviously extremely rich, which you would need to be in order to afford the level that Alcorta was going for. Um, and so I didn't. It just so happened to be Peruvian. I needed him to be from a different country. I didn't want it to be America. I was really trying to keep most of these actions out of the United States because of the things that happened. If it happened in the United States, the things that Ryan did, if it happened in the United States, there would be serious repercussions from a legal standpoint. So I needed it to be out of the country. And I wanted the other one to be from another country as well, so I could tie in the different worlds into one where they come together by this mutual repulsion, I guess, this mutual sickness that they both have. So that was kind of and I wanted to really slap this guy around. You know what I mean? And it's fun to slap those kind of guys around who think there is no repercussions for their actions. I've never done, I can do no wrong. I've never raised a finger to do anything, but I'm literally on top of the world, and then have them meet Colonel Chuck, and, and what goes on from there. And so, going back, and I know this was not the question, but going back to Ryan's character, and you find a lot of protagonists when we meet them, they've been the foundation for their badassery has been ongoing for years. We usually meet them. We usually meet them when they're seasoned and they've been in the CIA, or they've been in Black Ops, or they've been in the military. I didn't have that. I don't have that kind of background personally. I couldn't write on that. I never wanted to really write legal thrillers. I wanted to write more of an action thriller. And when I read those other books and about those protagonists, I always kind of thought in the back of my head, what would happen if a normal person, normal everyday guy, was put in the situations they're put in? How would you handle it? And I know I'm talking about a home invasion where I think we could all muster up the stones to stand up and protect our family. I'm talking about a scenario that those other protagonists found themselves in, that Ryan finds himself in. What would you do? And I also wanted the character, I always kind of wonder about the backstory, and some will allude to it, of James Reese or Scarlett Harvath or somebody like that. I wanted to introduce a character where you're with him at his genesis of where I want the character to go. So we don't pick him up, 8 years from now when he's in more situations like this, and then you have to tell the backstory. Oh, he used to be a lawyer. No, I wanted to introduce him from the get-go, so you can grow with him and see all these character arcs and experience it with him.
You did that,
I hope so.
right? Like,
I hope so. Yeah.
So you totally did that, because what you're talking about in that moment, it was so artfully crafted, that moment. And I believe, without question, and I'm just like this little dude in Canada, I believe that if I were faced with the same situation, I would do the same thing.
Yes.
Because there's going to be, like, no, I've not experienced this at all, but like there are times in your life when you're going to be called to do something that's completely out of character for the sake of the greater good. And I feel confident in that I would do the same thing. And so with Ryan in particular, I thought that was a fascinating development, but also just the unpacking of such things just a little bit later in the book, right? Like there was such humanity with Ryan, and such like I said, like he's normal. One of the things that I also want to call out, and I hope that all of this like talking in shadows makes people really want to get out there and buy the book. But what I love about The Peruvian was all of that depth in story that you gave him. Like you didn't just say he's rich billionaire, spoiled rotten brat. Like you like added layers there that like it was that those are like extra gifts and treasures when you're unpacking. And Justin Alcourt, holy moly, he was expertly written as well, because I hated him. Like, yes. I hated him. Like I had I hate him is what I meant to say, actually. I hate him.
You didn't mince words there. You know what's funny?
Yeah, I hate him.
He was one of the few bad guys that I didn't attempt to humanize a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Vicente, I tried to humanize him some. With Brian, I tried to humanize him some. Even with Bidwell, try to humanize him some. Say like, this is kind of where they came from. Here's a sneak peek into why they may be like this. I didn't want Alcorta to be like comic book villain, but I wanted him to be a villain.
And he is.
And he's I guess the part that I did humanize a little bit with him, he is very debonair. He's, very handsome. He's very charming. He's very smart. Very, his I loved writing him. I really enjoyed. He's such the antithesis of me. I really enjoyed writing that character. And here's a little aside. I'm gonna go down a rabbit trail here. There is a real Justin Alcorta, a real human being, and he coaches he's my assistant coach on my son's little league baseball team.
Love this. And
So
you did this.
yes, I did this with several of my friends. And actually, I was right before we got on, I was in the middle of writing. I'm a little delayed in delivering this to the reader. The names behind the characters, so the people behind the characters. Several of the names that I used are my friends, and Justin Alcorta being one of them. It's so funny. I had not talked to Justin in a few months because baseball season wasn't going on, and he texted me. And the Justin Alcorta of my life was an evil SOB. He texts me and it pops up, and I had that moment of like, whoa, Justin Alcorta's texting me. But yeah, it's just kind of my way of a nod to my friends that, they had to have some name. So I'm going to make them, I'm going to make them my friends' names. And that was my nod to them for their years of loyalty.
Which, I mean, for most of your friends, they fared very well in writing and all of those things, being, other protagonists in the film. This will be a film. I'm putting it out in the world.
Well, I would not be opposed to that.
And also, what's funny is I will send you a picture, because I can't remember his name at this moment. I will send you a picture of the actor who Justin Alcorta materialized in my mind while I was reading.
Please do.
Very pretty, beautiful. He has very beautiful eyes, but he plays a very he plays a hateful bastard very well. And so I think he would be a really great Justin Alcorta. And then, what was I going to say? I had something in my mind. So what did Justin Alcorta, the real one, think of? Has he read the book? Does he know he's portrayed?
He has the book. I got permission from all my friends before I did this. And funny thing is, Justin he's a server administrator and systems administrator at Texas Tech University here in town.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to be kind of a mentor for me too, from the AI perspective and from server perspective, things that I'm not an expert at. I reached out to him and said, hey, I've got a question here, a question there. Like, does this sound ridiculous? I mean, it's fiction, so it's not going to be, it's not going to be foolproof. It's not a nonfiction book, but I also didn't want it to be totally ridiculous, having flying cars and things like that. So, I was able to reach out to him, and he was the one I was most concerned with being a bad guy, because this is as fine of a man as you will ever meet. He's a family man through and through. He has a strong Christian faith. He's just a good human being. And I'm like, that's perfect. You're not going to be a good human being in my book. And I asked him about it. He's like, oh man, yes, that would be awesome. So he was all for it. So, and Vicente Gonzalez, he's been my close friend for 10 or 12 years. Vince, the man with no off switch, we call him. To my knowledge, he's not the head of a drug cartel, but it's maybe. No, he's not. And then David Fuller, Jamie McCall, they're both friends of mine. And it's fun one thing you can do in that is you can have some fun with your friends a little bit. Because in the book, Jamie McCall is, 5'8", balding, kind of pale skin. The real Jamie McCall, let's just say he fancies himself a ladies' man, and he's right. But I was able to poke some fun at him and make him a completely different person than he is in real life. And so only my friends will get that inside joke, but it was kind of fun to leave Easter eggs for them as well.
Of course. And I think, so what's really interesting too, is I have I want to go back real quick and say the technology that you talked about in this book and the situation, if you will.
Okay.
None of it, to me, was questionable. We know that there's a technology that exists that we're not aware of. We know that there's listener technology. There's people paying attention and yada yada yada. And I
Right.
thought that how Invisidata was formulated but then used in the way it was brilliant.
Thank
Because
you.
but I think that goes right back to the why I love the book so much is because that everything was sort of very high stakes, but so incredibly believable. Like there was nothing that I felt that was so far out there that would be like, nah, this couldn't happen. And like
Right.
it just felt very rooted in like if a news show or a news came on tonight talking about Ryan, yada yada, and all of
Mm-hmm.
this stuff were to air on television tonight, I would be like, okay, do you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to say is like the book was so
Yeah.
crafted that it felt very real. And what the other, just to add like one more piece to this is that the backstory and layering with the cartel and the absolutely brilliant. Like there, there's history there that you're like this is crazy, and like now I'm fanning right because I think
Well,
that
no, that's okay. There's a lot of that, and a lot that I cut out as well. Um, I wanted to weave in that kind of backstory. I wanted to know, um, even prior to the cartel, I wanted Ryan to have a past where he did at least learn some of the skills that he uses later in the book, where that came from, and I also wanted to not just to be this nameless, faceless cartel that the readers were learning about. It was rooted in something, truly rooted in something. It's kind of the same with the Martez Ranch. I actually cut out a tremendous amount about the Martez Ranch, and they were dossiers. They were. I went way too far into them, and my editor was like, "Okay, we got to cut some of this out. You're getting away from the story." And it's actually, um, I'm considering the Martez Ranch as part of a novella that I want to put out for people who did enjoy Recoil, and nothing major, but I really had a good storyline for the Martez Ranch that. I was disappointed my editor wanted them out, but I understood why, and I certainly understand why, and it makes it a better book without it. But those are the fun parts to write. The backstory of the cartel, and then the backstory of the Martez Ranch, and I went in a lot deeper on each character's backstory as well. And again, way too much, but it's now has me excited to come up with expand on a little bit, and I never deleted anything. You just move it to another folder, right? And
yeah.
I'm hoping to develop a novella out of that. And so it's interesting that you say that that's the parts that you found real interesting, because those were fun. Those are really fun to write.
I just thought that I read a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
I usually average anywhere from 100 to 125 books a year. Like
Wow.
with my job and other things that's going on. That's how I get into my body and feel in the moment. Like get centered, grounded, all of those. Just read. So getting lost
Mm-hmm.
in book. That's the parts that I felt were like just there was a really great story, but then even on top of this story, there was just layering that like the whole cartel fiasco. We won't
Mm-hmm.
talk about anything. The going back in time
Mm-hmm.
parts, like I was just like, this is crazy. Like there's just such, and I agree with your editor. While I would love to read the original, like the full manuscript from start to finish, what what you did end up putting out was a really high sort of stakes, palpable, solid, good read where people could sit down and enjoy like that action. There's some wow in there where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
and like you're rooting for people. And I'm being cognizant of time, but I want to ask, um, besides Ryan, which
Mm-hmm.
because we know it's going to be a series by Ryan Wolf thriller, right?
Yes,
Will we see any of the characters that are in this book in future Ryan Wolf
you will.
thrillers? Okay,
You
good.
will. Obviously,
Because-
you're going to see Ryan. You're going to see Colonel Chuck and the boys again.
Perfect.
You will see Ashton again and how
Okay.
that relationship has progressed. And you will see one character that I am not going to divulge who it is from the book because it's kind of it's going to be a surprise because it's kind of a part I've hidden in the beginning. But there is a character from Recoil that's going to be a real central character to the book, to Core of Truth. Bill Freeze makes a comeback. His neighbor who helped him with the tree makes a
Yeah.
comeback in a larger way in the next book. And Jennifer Browder a little bit so far, but some of his closer folks, yeah, for sure. And then, like I say, one main character that's not in his circle will rear his head again.
Oh, I don't know if you know what you just did to me. It's gonna hurt my brain because I'm gonna be like, I already have thoughts and suspicions. Um, but yeah, so I'm excited, obviously, for this book. I think everybody out there who loves to read, who likes to be entertained while reading, who loves action thrillers like that will move you through a whole journey and leave you winded by the end, but with, with some closure, I think. Um, you got to get out there and buy Recoil of Justice, available online wherever you buy books.
That's right.
Let's put Mr. Elder on the New York Times bestsellers. Come on, let's do it. We can do it, right?
I'm all about that. Absolutely. I would appreciate that very, very much.
And then we need someone to come out and option this book. So putting that in the world as well. And you said you're aiming for the end of the year to have this book first draft finished.
Yes, I'm actually aiming for a pub date by the end of the year. Those things kind of get pushed. So, and I know I've heard January is not a good time to publish a book. So if it's not by Christmas time or so, it'll probably be later Q1 2026. But I'm pretty hopeful that I can hammer this out and have a manuscript done by maybe September, October, and then we can really, as long as the post writing goes quick,
Which
I'm hoping by the
sometimes
end
the
of the year.
post writing is the longest thing ever
Oh
because
God, I know.
there's so much back and forth and
Yes,
like people, you don't just write words on a page and then that's that. It's a very detailed and cumbersome process.
yes, it absolutely
In
is. And
your
I
mind,
mhm.
how many Ryan Wolf thrillers do you think there could be? Do you have like a ballpark
I don't
number?
have a set number. I don't have a max number. Um, I have to fight these thoughts off, just jot them down, but I've already have some ideas for a third book.
Love
And
that.
where that can go. And I think the third book in my mind is really going to etch in stone who Ryan Wolf's character is. He's in the metamorphosis phase right now,
Of course.
and I think that by the third one, he's going to be. Let's just say this: he's going to at least be in his late teens. He's a child now in his
Yeah.
character. He'll at least be in his late teens to early 20s by then, and then I could see, I'm about to be 55 years old. So, if I could put out a book a year, I don't think 10 is too many, but it only be if it's something I want to write and something I feel moved and I'm not just
Yeah.
putting words on a page just to placate and sell a few copies. It's going to have to be
Well,
something that I'm
that's something
really
you can
want
tell in this
to write.
book, right? Is that you didn't just write it to put words on a page.
Well, I hope
So
so. I
I
certainly
like
hope
I
so.
like that you that you said that. And it's true. I think for anybody at home, just to clarify, if you're listening, the main protagonist is not a child, literally.
No, no.
No, but where he's at in his story arc is currently he's a child
Yes.
moving
Yeah,
into his,
that was a
like,
good clarification there.
like there's not a child prodigy
Yeah,
running
there's no
around.
3-year-old practicing law in Houston.
Yeah,
No.
but so with that being said, we know that we will look out for Core of Justice
Core of
in
truth.
Core of Truth. Hopefully late this year or early next year.
Yes.
Get out there and buy your copies of Recoil of Justice. And yeah, thank you so much for being a guest on the show and talking about this book with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I really have enjoyed this very much.
Oh, me too. And when you write another one, let me know and you can come back.
Love
And
to.
for everyone at home, enjoy your reading. You will enjoy it. I know you will. And until next time, get out there and live your wildest dreams.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.